for everyone who's joined. So just as you can see, the meeting is being recorded, and this is something which we had requested Hrushi, so and he has agreed for that. Also, for anyone who's joining, please keep your camera off and your audio muted. Please do it right now so that later on we do not have any cases where we have background noises coming in. Thanks for doing that. And for today, we have quite a few people joining us, both from Lazada and from a lot of other companies. So we just, as we speaking, we see a lot of people joining us here. We will also be live streaming this entire session within Lazada. So we have a huge group of people who follow this channel, and they will be listening to this session on live streaming within Lazada right now, meaning Lazada employees, not Lazada buyers or users. So we will be glad for them, the buyers and users, also to listen to it. But as of now, this is being live streamed to the Lazada employees. So first and foremost, thanks, Hrushi, for doing this. I have been working with Hrushi. I think I know him for many years, and frankly, we started our careers long ago, in about 20 years ago, both of us in India, and then, but we chanced to work upon a project together 13 years ago, and quite by incidents, it was actually, Hrushi, you might be interested to know, we had worked in a firm which was based in the building that now we Lazada owns.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, so right now Lazada Singapore office is based in the same building
Nice.
that where we worked on that, yeah, 13
That's
years ago.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's quite interesting for,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
And then I have been seeing Rishi speaking for, well, many years now, actually, on CX, and he's like the expert on CX. He has been providing consulting and advisory support to a lot of brands, and has been, helping them set up the best-in-class CS programs, maintain it. And I've seen him speak at almost every forum of CX, because he is such a, like, everyone wants to hear from him, and you will see why. His services also include CX maturity assessment, playbook, customer journey mapping, program design, survey design, obviously, change management workshop, and a host of other services. As I told you, he's been working for 2 decades on this, and on various other subjects, but now he has completely focused on CX for the past almost, I think, about 7, 8 years. He's been focusing
Yep, that's
only
correct.
on
I
the,
think it was the market posting. Yep, that was more on the CX. Yep, so around 8 to 9 years. That's correct.
yes. So, and he is a certified customer experience practitioner from the CPT group. He's also had diploma from the CX Academy. He was also a regional council leader for Asia in CXPA. So yeah, you can see him, like, he's always there, actually advocating CX and how to improve CX. So let's hear from him today. Over to you, Rishi, and thanks for doing this for us. You might want to share your screen and take all of us through your experience on CX. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that note, Sanchita. I'm just getting my screen up. But yep, I had in mind to introduce myself, but I think Sanchita has already done a great job, so I'm not going to spend another 2 minutes here. But quickly jumping into the topic, which is all about measuring the impact of your CX initiatives. The reason is that, yes, you must have heard about CX evolve in the last, I would say, around 12, 14 years, especially ever since Bain came out with the philosophy of NPS, and then we have CXPA, which is the Customer Experience Professionals Association. And I think they are the ones who lay down some of the, I would say, rules or some of the best practices in CX. They also do have accreditation, which is CCXP, the Certified CX Professional. Qualtrics has one, which is the XMP, which is the Experience Management Professional, XM Pro, and there are a couple of them. I have done my accreditation from the CX Academy, I would say from Ireland. It was a 10 months course, and most of the examples that I have taken today, either they are available in the public domain or I have taken some dummy numbers. So while I'm a numbers person, I'm a mathematics graduate, so I believe in numbers to prove these ROI. But just to set the context of today's session, maybe I spend the first 10 minutes just maybe brushing through what is CX, what are the typical frameworks. And then I have 3 use cases where I want to take the maximum 30 minutes chunk or so to take you through how even at your organization, you could look at one. If I would say what's the traction once you employ some of the CX initiatives, as well as do a quarterly or annual exercise trying to show that for every X dollar or every X money spent, what is the X plus Y increment value. Yeah. So to set that context, I thought maybe let me quickly talk about customer experience, how it is very important when it comes to a brand differentiating it. And I personally always feel that wherever I want to go, right? I'm just planning to do a trip sometime in August, and I boiled down to 3-4 countries. And the first thing I went was go online on various portals, read about that country, look at some of the YouTube videos made by some of these travel experts or travel bloggers. And then I boiled down to one, which was not even on the top of my mind. In fact, it was the third out of those 4 countries. So my experience, even for something as fun, which is a travel experience for leisure, was quite, I would say, influenced by some of things I read, hear, see on the internet. Yeah. So it's very important that we have a great experience. There are few views that I keep hearing, and I would like to highlight them, saying that a delight is not always possible, or a delight is always expensive. Rather, a bare minimum where I'm meeting my customer's expectation is good enough. Fair point. What I mean by delight is, yes, don't give them a freebies like an iPhone, or every time give them a 20% off discount voucher on the next purchase. What I mean by delight is it works wonderful if you tell a customer that he or she is the chosen one to get this particular freebies or some benefit, and the reason, because we did XYZ wrong, or we delayed in XYZ, and hence one-off, we are giving you this. Then I feel the delight doesn't become a bare hygiene, which the customer expects again and again. So that's the very first concept of a great experience, saying that you maintain the level of experience that they expect, not that you can deliver, but much more than what they expect. But once in a blue moon, give them the delight. Yeah. Having said that, again, taking 2 minutes just to maybe differentiate between what is CXM, which is the customer experience management, as experts, or whether we are at client side, the agency, or consultants. We keep on talking about the customer experience management. But again, it's very important to understand that it's the way we look inside out, whereas customer experience is exactly what your customer is seeing the organization from an outside view. Yeah. So if I were to make every strategic decision sitting inside my office, and then things don't work, which is at the grassroots level, then the CXM has worked, but the CX hasn't. And after all, we are getting the money for the CX part, right? It's not CXM. And hence the focus should be, rather I'm going to focus on the next 40 minutes or so on how can we understand what is happening from a customer's point of view. Yeah. Moving on, I have seen many definitions of what is customer experience on the internet. So many books written. I read at least one book on CX every month, and there are many books still, so I have not yet finished my quota. But I typically, when I did that advanced diploma in CX from the CX Academy, I really like this definition, which says that at the end of the day, how a customer feels as a result of every two-way interaction that they have with every touch point or journey of a brand, right? So simple definition, it is nothing but a sum total of all the experiences put together, how does it make them feel? And some faces there, excited, happy, frustrated, agitated, completely shattered, no ways, or super excited. So what are we talking about? We are talking about one, every interaction. So it's more to do with right from the stage one till the I would say till today. How is each and every interaction being for the customer? And second, and the more important, is we make our decisions not always rational. Yeah, we are all emotional, we are humans, and hence emotions play a lot of role when it comes to outside inward looking. Yeah, so remember, all things that we do will be more rational, but things like a journey mapping help us to understand if there are any gaps from a customer's point of view, or if any of the interaction with our staff or with the app or with a chatbot left them not so happy or left them quite happy. Yeah, so that's where I would spend my understanding on customer experience. Yep, a lot of definitions and I respect them, but this covers, I think, most of it. Anything, Sanchita? I'm just taking a minute pause to check. All fine? I'm quite audible.
Yeah, I think everything is fine. We've also asked everyone to put in their Q&A in the chat so that they don't disturb you in between, and then you can take all of the questions at the end at
I'll
once.
keep that in mind so that I keep good 15-20 minutes at the end. That will be really great. Thanks. Yeah. So moving on, once we have the definition, I really like this, and this is the book I'm reading right now, saying that, you know, from the expert Golden Ann, and Ian also talks about that it's after all always, we always think that it's a science. When I say science, maybe I'm going to be too rational and say that this is the ROI because I did this change in the contact center, or because of the fact that we sent our team out for a training outbound and then they come back, they sell better. Look, because of whatever they do, we get a better high ROI from that training. But after all, we all should remember, least we forget, that there's a heart, there's an emotion behind that science. So that's one quote from his book that I've picked up that I really liked, saying that after doing everything that I'm going to show today, there is no replacement for the emotion part. Yep. Little jumping into more specifics now, having said the little context here and there on the what CX is and how it is different than CXM. This is the underlying, I would say, framework of the CX Academy. There are a lot of frameworks, as I said. CCXP has their own 5-point framework, which would talk about customer centricity, voice of customer, or getting a leadership buy-in. This particular model I really liked. And when I do my own consulting and brand work, I use this for every stage. Yeah. So let me spend quickly a minute on each. And maybe I start with, I trust you. This we have seen from research that of the all put together, the 6 levers, I would say, or pillars of the CX framework, I trust you is very important when it comes to especially categories like, let's say, BFSI, where in banking and financial institutions, me as a customer is trusting a brand with my money. Yeah, the least I want is they go bankrupt, and we keep reading them. Maybe in the last month also, we have read so many articles. So I don't want to fall in that bucket. I also trust you that you're going to take every decision which is in interest of the customer. Maybe it's interest rate, then you give me better interest rate than others when it comes to savings. If it's a loan product or a credit line of business, I expect you to give me as aggressive rates as possible as compared to competition. If you're doing CSR activities, then it is not only for the fact that you want to put it on a social media, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, but you're actually doing those. Yeah. So the trust factor, I would say, of all the levers is very important. And if you ask me, I mean, at the center, we see that we feel a real bond or emotional connect with the brand. To gain trust, the best is that you promise on your brand deliverables, or your brand promise is always adhered to. If you do that, if I give a promise saying that you order something from me, it's a food delivery app, I'll deliver it within 30 minutes, or we give you a $10 off on the next purchase. And the brand actually does that, then that builds the trust. So for me, always look at how can I look at delivering on the brand promise every time. Yeah. The second is where your CRM, your integrations, I would say the entire data would come into picture, which is that you know me. So you know me as a person rather than a loan account number, rather than I would say a card which is given to me like a loyalty card and that's the number, or a credit card number. You know exactly what are my needs from you. You know when was the last time I paid the bill, if it's a monthly billing. You know when did I complain to the contact center. You know what investment products maybe I have from a bank. If I am a e-commerce company, I would want to know that how many products you did select and you did park it in your cart, but you haven't yet bought it. Do you think they're going to buy it in the next coming 15 days? Or is it like a cart abandonment they have done? I need to know everything. And it helps the customer also if you know them very well. Yeah. So I trust you, the most important. The second is you have a complete pen and picture, or a complete knowledge of my persona and my needs. That's the second pillar. You make it easy is something that I think it's very important when it comes to tech apps, when it comes to contact center. What it typically means is that you don't give jargons. Yeah, you kind of keep it easy in a language that I understand. Again, looking outside into the organization. So if you can explain to me something in simple terms, layman terms, I feel one, again, it's a function of trust, saying that the very fact that you explain in a layman's language, you are not trying to shoo away from your responsibilities, and you make it clear to me, saying something was supposed to take 3 days turnaround time, but it's going to take 5 because of XYZ, which is not in my control. Maybe the client might be a little tamed down and might take that as a solution. Yeah. So you make me easy is the third pillar, where in every process, in every interaction, if we can follow this, I think most of the battle is won. Yeah. You get me is all about the emotions, about the empathy. You must have heard a lot about empathy when it comes to our discussions on the internet and CX forums. What does it mean? It's something different than sympathy. I don't want to sympathize with you saying, oh, sorry, you missed out on the flight because you are delayed. No, rather empathy is trying to understand what could be done, more of actions, putting ourselves in their shoes and feeling that if I was in that situation and I really wanted to reach somewhere, but because of some issues, the person has missed their flight, or is it possible to accommodate them something? That's where the empathy aspect comes in. Yeah, you deliver on promise, again, function of what I said, the trust. If you want to win it, there are, I would say, situations where this has worked the best. So I would say the first and the fifth, they go very hand in hand, saying that if every time I deliver on the promise that I make, then there is a positive sentiment in the mind, because that's how, if you remember the first definition, saying customer experience is sum total of all the interactions. So every time you're doing it consistently, I feel bonded to your brand. Yep. And the last thing is that you fix things wherein we understand as consumers, we acknowledge the fact that it's after all a relationship which is ongoing, and there will be something ups and downs, just like we have in our family or within our friend circle. And I'm okay that you, not every time, but once in a while, you kind of are not able to deliver on something you committed, or it takes more time, or you send me a damage item, which I understand only after opening the package, but you take the onus, you apologize, and you are ready to fix it, to make it better, to replace it, or send a technician at your home and repair it. Again, I have a lot of respect for such brands, and I feel bonded towards that brand, because what they have done is, maybe there was not 100% of delivery as per my expectation, but taking an onus and fixing it really worked. And you can see that's the reason why I'm presenting this screen from the CX Academy, saying that each and every pillar is very important. I wouldn't say the most important thing or the mistake we do is look at them as silos. So I wouldn't say just because there is one team who's trying to, let's say the Marcom team is trying to make it easy in their communication and no jargons, etc. And the CRM team is going to look at, you know me very well. That's not how it works. They all 6 pillars have to come together, and it's the onus of the CX lead or the CX head to drive them. Yeah, I hope you see value in this framework. I know you all are on mute, but I'm just saying one of the models that I really liked, and I practice this whenever I do my workshop sessions. I touch upon every lever just to understand where the client is in terms of the CX maturity level. Yeah, are they low on trust, but they are doing well on you make it easy? Then it's a different strategy they need to have. Or they are high on trust. It's a trusted brand, like in Indian example, I can think of Tata. Maybe are they showing emotions? Are they fixing things? Maybe then it's a different strategy again. Yep. So depending on these examples, I look at the maturity levels of the client. Yeah. Yeah. So this was something I picked up again from a public domain, just to drive the point that how trust is important, and you will see that it does correlate with trust. The only this is a good sample size done by Qualtrics. I haven't been a part of this research, but I really liked it when I read this report on internet, and I think it's on LinkedIn and their page too. This is almost 24,000 customers or consumers who have been surveyed across 24 countries, and it does say that as the trust with the brand develops, I mean X and Y axis, as you go up more of a linear line, we see that the satisfaction or the loyalty also increases. Yeah, similar chart I saw where, and we can see that the correlation is quite high. It's 0.68. I think anything close to 0.7 is always great. And we can also see that your customers, we always talk about cross-selling, upselling. If they have a trust, their satisfaction rate is high, and so is the rub-off effect on the purchase too. Yeah, some really great charts, rather than maybe focusing on the numbers, just the more of the chart to explain how trust is very important, which came from the CX Academy framework also. Yeah, this, according to me, is the complete end-to-end CX. Yeah, if you ask me, a little misconception is that I go and survey the consumers. So I look at some of the metrics which I'll talk about, and then basis that I do root cause analysis, I do closing the loop, and that's CX. Yeah, maybe that's only CX in the bold one that I have put, which is customer understanding, but there are a lot of things. Yeah, right. Maybe I wouldn't have the time today to touch on each, but I wanted to more just drive the point, since we are having this session, saying that CX is not only about understanding your consumers and then taking some corrective actions or preempting that with predictive analytics and going at. That's only customer understanding. If I look at something like CX leadership, that's where you need to take the buy-in from Mr. CEO or CFO to be able to run a program. And the way I look at it is all this needs to be put in a proper CX playbook, just like we have a marketing playbook, so that we know on what frequency we are going to meet, read some of the consumer sentiments, actual verbatim, look at the trends in the score, overall level, by geography, by segments, by business type, all that. And then we look at all the functions of CX. Yeah, very important, so that we don't get that myopic vision that I'm calculating my top to box satisfaction score, or I'm calculating NPS. We are doing good on it. That's it. No, that's just one meter of it. There are so many things one needs to do. Yeah. This is more getting into specifics now. 2-3 areas I would say where, if I were to look at NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, the percentage of people who talk positive about you minus the percentage of people talking negative, which is called the detractors. Then we see that the first half, it is all about relationship NPS. And if you ask me, it's a great way of calculating the customer lifetime value, saying that X is the amount of money a customer spends with me every month, every year, and Y is the renewal cycle. So over the next 5 years, 10 years, what is the kind of money that I can expect, yeah, as a revenue? And then, of course, we know the cost of operations, etc., and hence what profits are we looking at, or what numbers are we projecting? Yeah. The other part is across the journey. So the journey would be that I'm contacting, let's say, a logistics or a courier company saying, here is my tracking number. I have sent some important documents to UK from maybe Singapore, and you promised me 8 days max turnaround time. Is the 10-day. I'm not able to locate it on the internet, and hence I've called up the contact center. So now imagine the person has already gone onto the portal, keyed in that tracking number, got no information. So going back to the contact center. So there are 2 touch points, and the entire piece till the document is, I would say, kind of located and sent to the right location or comes back to the home. That's the entire journey. The idea is, hence, I have taken an example of, I think, an insurance company, right from an inquiry, onboarding to different heads. But what I have not yet superimposed, because there is a limited content on the slide, saying there are different, I would say, channels like an agent advisor, there are brokers, there is a contact center, there is, I would say, so many things, right, which will play a role at, there might be email response, chatbot, website. So superimposing on every journey, and then understanding at a touch point level, how are we doing? What are the pain points? What are the positives? What are they talking about is very important. Yeah. These are some of the metrics. As I said, it's not only about customer metrics. We have different metrics, and it all depends on, not that just because I have a metric, I kind of marry the data between all these. It all depends on, I would say, what kind of outcome are you looking at, or what is the objective? So if your objective is to retain your customers which are with you, there's a different level of metric that I would look at, or a combination rather. If you're looking at cross-selling, there's a different one. If I'm looking at making it very easy for someone to navigate my portal so that they can locate those products or service, or even a FAQ easily, is that a task? So again, there's a different metric, and hence it needs to be done right from, again, awareness till the retention. Mostly the consulting work when I do, I understand that clients either focus on awareness, interest, or during the retention, and not during the entire journey, which becomes then a difficult function during the retention, because it gets difficult, right? You have paid attention only on the onboarding process and not during the entire journey. So that's where we need to be particular that we are looking at it. If you ask me, a great example is from an employee engagement perspective. Many companies also invest there, I would say, to understand the sentiment of the employees, and hence what they do is they look at the screening process. I mean, the HR person is doing a screening, but you go back to the candidate and understand how was the screening recruiting process, the onboarding journey, the plus 15 days, the plus 30, and then the plus 90 from the date of joining. So on the 15th day, how do they feel? Do they feel welcoming? Is there a buddy to help them out? Are they fully equipped by the time it is 90th day? Then the ongoing, I would say, always on, where a customer, in this case, the internal customer, which is the employee, just scans let's say QR code, and there is always on feedback. I can always give the feedback. There could be a quarterly one. There could be one just before appraisal cycle. There could be an exit interview when somebody quits. All this is going to give me as a HR person or as a decision maker who's into talent management, who's into performance appraisal or into human resources, the much needed data to understand what is happening during the entire cycle of the employee. Yeah, very important, just as we talked about the customer experience. I think this would be one of my last slides where I'm talking more theory, and then I'll get into use cases. But I'm sure most of you have looked at these kind of charts where we are talking about closing the loop. So whether it is employee, whether it is your business partner, whether it is your customer, I'm saying a stakeholder, it's very important that you close the loop. Otherwise, one, the data that you're collecting is only sitting in PPTs like these or in some archives of your organization. If you don't identify what was the root cause analysis and try to look at what are the top 2-3 reasons for that root cause analysis, it will come up every time. So every time you do a research or you do understand the voice of the customer, after every 2 months, we'll have the same themes coming up or the same, I would say, sentiments, because we haven't taken an action. So there are two parts to it. One is, I would say, the emergency loop, where not only from the customer, but there are so many things that we could track internally also. One is social media. I could have a social media track done daily just to understand what the sentiment is like in the market. The other is something like if I'm seeing too many password forgot or password reset on my portal, I can imagine that customers are having a tough time because of some server issue, because of some backend issue, privacy issue, and they are trying to reset their password in a kind of a haste or in a kind of emergency. Then I need to look at where the gap is. So it's not always surveying the customer. I would say that's a part of it, but looking at data that is being generated on your CRM, on your portal, on social media, different sites, and then looking at some kind of text analytics or sentiment gives a lot of, again, you get some good ideas for the innovation loop. Yeah, we were talking to a customer based out of Hong Kong, and towards the end of the survey, we came to know from the, I would say, from the verbatim, that there were a lot of needs that were not being satisfied, and they had given, we asked them an open question saying, after the survey was over, what is the one thing that the brand can do to get your loyalty or satisfaction to the next level? And it was not anything about the service, which we were expecting. It was more about the product features. Yep. So that's where the client was lacking. And they went back to the drawing board just to understand what new innovation or what new features can we add. Can we charge a premium? Then it's more money. But that's how I would say the complete innovation loop looks like. Yep. I'm going to take a pause again. I've covered most of the theory that I had in mind just to set the context. I'm getting into numbers because, after all, the numbers is something which would tell us what is the actual way of looking at the ROI. If any comments, maybe Sanchita, or I can continue.
No, I think as of now, there's no questions. Any questions from anyone? If you want to unmute and just ask questions, please feel free at this point. Okay, no questions for you.
Sure,
Seems like everyone
Thanks.
is fine.
Yeah. I'll go through the case studies. In fact, I have 2-3 case studies, and I'm sure then if there's some thinking points, it will start. Every time I kind of walk across even to a brand or to a client, the first thing is that if a client, I look at it as 5 stages of CX maturity, right from the first or the intermediate one to the more expert. And we do conduct a CX maturity kind of a framework with them first, before even we start. And the clients who are in the first or the second bucket, they typically have in their mind saying that we have heard a lot about CX, but why should we do it? Indirectly, what we are trying to understand from them is that I see a value in CX, but I need to show this value internally, try to make my job easier. That's when I would say bucket it into 2 ways. One is, how can I make the company money? How can I get some additional dollars? Or the other aspect is, how can I save some money for the company? So if it is all about making money, I'm going to talk about how do I increase sales? How do I look at some kind of brand advocates who want to recommend, or how is it that I can increase some kind of retention or loyalty so that it gets easy to sell? Saving money is more on, it could be operational level, it could be on processes, it could be on how can I maybe optimize the staff at a contact center and move someone to more advanced channels rather than a brick and mortar, more to digital. What kind of investments I need to do to get a particular ROI, and how is it possible that if there is a leaking bucket somewhere, I can fix that up, because that's going to save my company money. So I wouldn't say one presides the other. The both of these are important. Both have a different approach. Both have a different, I would say, backing from the organization. But I've taken some dummy numbers in the slides to come. I'm focusing more on first making money, So this one I have taken again an example of a client I worked with. This is a client which is into, I would say, more of, you'll see the number of customers are less. So it is not like a big e-commerce or a banking client. And they are more into trying to understand that if they have a total customer base of, say, 725K, what is it that we could do? So what we started was with trying to understand first as is basis, which is today, and there where you want to be. Yeah. So to be is on the next slide. So what we did was we kind of looked at that if the average revenue per user in a year is, say, $3,300 odd, and there are 725K customers as of today, how much do I retain next year? Which is again getting a lot of historical data from 2019, 2020, 2021, 22. So I looked at 4 years average, and I understand that the retention rate of some last years is 68%. Now from 68, saying that suddenly out of every 100 customers I have at the end of December, by January I should renew all 100 is not feasible. Even saying that out of those 68 that I retain, how can I make it 80, 75? It's a mammoth task. Yeah. So we actually were more realistic, and we told the brand or the I would say the CEO that let's only look at a 2% hike. So from 68% retention, we make it 70. So those 2% is going to be around 14K of the 725. And that's where we looked at what is the additional revenue, which is the average revenue per user, plus this additional 2%, which comes to around 47 million. Yeah, even if you don't focus on the numbers, it's okay. More is the logic that is important. To do this, it's not going to be a magic wand that I just say that instead of 68%, now we retain 70, 71. If that was so-and-so case, then anybody would have done it. They don't need a consultant like me. So what we did was we spent time on each of these. First, doing a research, I would say, though it's third in the order, but first we did consumer research to understand what are the issues or reasons where someone doesn't renew the contract with us. Yeah. So we understand and we located some of them, and those were improvement in the renewal process, which is the communication is not right. We understood that they were not even sending a communication maybe 1 month, 15 days in advance, or they wanted to renew, but when you want to renew, you just want to make a payment, right? A mobile app was not able to support it, unfortunately. There was no web chat assistance where they can easily renew. And hence, out of frustration, they were dropping that 1-year plan after it's over and going to competition. So that was the first major, I would say, 8,002K money that we spent there, just trying to understand what changes should we do. And we actually did those changes. The second was some kind of stuff, additional, I would say additional investment or additional expense, which we did around 2006K. And of course, the research that I spoke, which gave me direction on the first two, what needs to be done. Hence, we see that there is a total investment, which is investment meaning an outflow from my pocket, which was around 11.4. And the previous slide, which was more about the revenue, which is now the benefit I get, which is 47. Having looked at these two data points, we could easily go back and say that the increase in retention is 47 minus the investment, because that goes out of my pocket, which is 11, which is around 36 million on a base of 11 million investments. Yeah. So that comes to around 3x times, or 316 being the ROI. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do here is, now that I have numbers, it's not the theory that I was talking on till now, saying that you need to fix things, you need to work on your brand promise, or you need to understand the customer. The customer should trust you. All that comes in numbers, and numbers is something then we all can believe and relate to. Yeah. I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to do these numbers every year. I want to show also to the top management that these investments that we did, they actually have a good allocation to be done for the next 2-3 years. It's not only for this year, because the benefits, which is this, is going up. So because of all this, every year we are seeing a 2%, and slowly from a 68 to a 70 to a 72, we see our increase in the retention numbers. Yeah. Allow me to take one more example, which is more on saving money. Yeah. So this was more on making money, and this one will tell you how do I save money for the company. I've taken example of a contact center, maybe different nationals and different I would say listeners today on this show, and in your country, I'm not sure how much a contact center is given a worth, but I keep seeing a lot of my clients still rely on the contact center, so they want to mature the client and move them to more digital. So here we saw that one of the client I was working with, they had almost 37,000 customers calling their contact center in any given year. And what we understood is that because of the infrastructure cost, the salaries, let's say the electricity bills, everything of the contact center, we could find out that it comes to around $7 to service that particular customer. Again, a dummy number, don't hold on to me for that. It might be less or more. So we were able to get a fact that for that $7 a call, which goes on for 10 to 12 minutes, the amount is $262K. We also saw that in the contact center, those who are experts will agree with me, not every call is closed with the FCR, which is first call resolution or first time resolution. Yeah, the customer is told that we will look into it. This is your customer complaint number or your reference number. Call us next week if not done. If it's done, great. If not, you give us a call again. Now they quote the number. The call is not that long of 12 minutes. You already have a resolution. The call closes quickly, and I'm assuming a $3 half of 7. But then again, there are a few calls which come back, not all. Yeah. So the cost of repeat calls is again something. So we know the total cost of servicing 37,535 customers in a year multiplied by 5 years, because that's where we wanted to do some exercise with the customer by making some changes. We wanted to show them a 5 to 7 year horizon. So I know 1876K is the current cost. We calculated a little different. So what were the estimated cost savings? We assumed that because of that 37,535 calls coming every year, we are able to reduce it to 14,000 by giving them the same kind of satisfaction, the same emotional or the connect that a contact center person should have. And then even in terms of the repeat calls, which were maybe not every call is repeat, some are first time resolutions, the other non-FTRs is also got down. So you can see that from a 37K to 14 and from a 22K to 11, there is a lot of reduction that we saw, and hence there are savings, because again, at the 7 rupees and 3 rupees or rather dollars, we kind of are saving that money. So what happens is, again, over a 5-year period, I can calculate with great, I would say, accuracy, what is the amount of money I'm saving, which is coming back to me, right? So first example was making money by additional cross-selling or by retention. This is all about the same number of customers, but I'm trying to reduce the operations or the service cost, in this case, the contact center. To do that, I have to invest something, right? I cannot just reduce them, and hence we were looking at, shifting them to some of the digital channels, especially for the personas that we could identify, saying these are more tech savvy customers. They don't mind, rather than speaking to a human, if they can get their solution in a fraction of the time on a chatbot or a FAQ or a digital channel. These are only the customers who will shift, and hence we have not looked at everyone, just a fraction of that 37,000 customers. We saw that the total investment needed is 273K, but the total benefit is 992 over 5 years. And that's where we had a 2.6x or a 263% of a ROI. Yeah. So just recapping what we have looked at. So we started by saying what is the definition of CX, what is customer experience. Then we looked at one of the frameworks. I took it from the CX Academy. Then we looked at some of the metrics, which is business metric, operational metrics. It could be the survey metrics, etc. And now we have looked at only one, I would say, use case, which more talks about how do I save money for my company or how do I make money for my company. Yeah. Again, I'm taking a quick 30 seconds break. Any points, any questions, feel free to ask me.
No questions as of now. Anyone has any questions, please unmute and you can ask.
Sure. I just had a quick check on the watch. I think we have another 10-15 minutes at the max. So I think we are going great. This another case study is about NPS. And I'm not very sure if you have seen such charts, but the idea of showing a chart is that there are a lot of discussion saying, is NPS really a valid tool? Or is NPS outdated? When I say NPS, Net Promoter Score, or is it that I need to replace it with some kind of CES, customer effort score, customer satisfaction score, or I just look at business metrics? There are so many discussions, right? And that itself is a 2-hour debate that we all can do. But the point I want to make is that do not worry about which metric. Yeah, if I have taken in this example, NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, one is consistency. Keep collecting data consistently on that particular metric going ahead. And second, try to do some additional analysis, something like this. So if I've, let me take simple numbers. If I've gone back to 100 customers in a month, and I understand 40 are promoters, 40 are neutral, and 20 are detractors. So my 40 minus 20, my NPS is plus 20. Now, this is a standard thing that every dashboard would give you, every PPT would give you. What I've done is I've gone one step ahead and understood what do I do next. So on this slide, I have excluded the neutral or the passives, the fence sitters and the detractors. I've only looked at promoters who are going to talk positive about me. And what I've done is I have asked them one more question. Do you have a relationship with brand other than me, right? I can't think of a brand other than, let's say, railways or utilities where you have only one-on-one kind of monopoly. Every brand, whether it is telecom, it's SIM. There are 2 SIMs in a mobile. There are multiple SIMs that I have. Average bank accounts, maybe 4.5. So everybody has these multiple relationships. So I asked the promoter saying, now that you have rated me, what rating would you give to your competition? And that's when I try to look at that if someone, I mean, the core strength 33% is someone who has given me the promoter rating, but at the same time, they have been, let's say, both are promoters, but competition rating is high, or is it equal? From these, I actually make strategies saying that if you are my promoter and you are a detractor of competition, or you are giving a low score for competition, this is my real strength. These are my real core promoters, I call them. I need to understand who are they. I can do that with mapping their data with CRM or with some PII, which is personal information. And then I can actually say that XYZ customer ABC are the ones who are promoters of my brand and detractors of others. I need to ensure that they are the ones who are going to give me positive word of mouth, loyalty, business. They're going to have the highest customer lifetime value. What kind of strategies should I have to engage with them? Least that they become a passive or they start considering my promoter. The other part is somebody who's my promoter. Let's say they have given me 9 and they have given competition 10. So they are promoter for me. They are promoter for competition also, but competition they consider 1 notch. That's where a gap analysis kind of analysis comes into a lot of power, trying to understand what is it that they are giving competition a better, is it that competition is faster? Is it all about turnaround time? Is it about a great relationship manager that they have? And that's where little bias or focus is towards competition, or what is it? Yeah. So once I understand those, again, now I'm not talking about how do I kind of, cross-sell, upsell. I'm more talking about how do I keep them more loyal to me, so that next time I do this kind of analysis, maybe they give me a 10 and competition is 8. I'm happy. Yeah. So the reason I'm showing you this is that do not get too hassled up with which particular metric or what should I do. It's more about what action you take from the metrics. From this, I get complete actionable saying somebody is my promoter and detractor of competition, different strategy. Somebody is my promoter, but neutral to competition. Again, I need to watch out. So those kind of things are more important rather than which particular metric. Yeah. Again, in interest of time, I'm going to spend quick, maybe 5 minutes on the last case study that I have, and that's the most important thing. Which unfortunately, when I work with a lot of brands, it happens is that a lot of data is in the silos. Yeah. If I ask for data saying, now give me we did this exercise for a telecom giant. What we did was that we were able to predict who would churn in which month. So sitting in May or June, I knew exactly in September, October, November, which customer is high probability to churn out. What we did was we looked at data from every source that we got. One is your survey data. We looked at customers who have, it's a telecom company, right? So you must have interacted with the technician. You have given some score after the survey has been triggered. You have interacted with the payment mechanism almost every month if you are in a billing plan. You have interacted with the contact center once in a year. So from the unique number, which is the subscription number of the customer, we looked at one from the survey data, all the data points that the particular customer has in terms of survey. Second, what we did was we understood each time they call the contact center, is it for a request, query, or a complaint? We filtered out all those who have complained in the last 1 year and those who gave me a little negative score, which is in the bottom 2 box, somewhat dissatisfied, extremely dissatisfied, or a detractor. And then we could come back and look at the behavior of such customers who either complained at a retail outlet or at a contact center and give me a detractor. What has been the behavior or the emotions of such customers for the past 3 years? And then make a model to predict, saying in August, September, October, when is it that this customer might churn out? Yeah. It took us almost, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks to be able to build this from scratch in an open book AI source. But we were able to go back with a good 72% confidence, saying that of your all customer base, it ran in millions. That's how you will appreciate the subscriber bases in India. And we were able to say that, watch out, it is these 1/5 or 1/6 of the customers who are going to churn out towards the later H2 of the year. And hence, what are their pain points? What can we do to do a service redressal and win them over again? Yeah. So that's typically what I had in mind, Sanchita, but I thought maybe I tried to, I don't know if I went a bit fast or if it was more superficial, but in the interest of time, I could think of whatever justice I could do to share some of my understanding in CX. Again, I'm not an expert, learning on a daily basis, but I think the forum is open for any comments or any discussion points. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Hrushi. We have some questions actually. And when you say you're not an expert, frankly, you're an expert much more than most of us, because you've been doing this for almost 9-10 years, just focusing only on CX and NPS and CES and all that. So we have a few questions, and I'll read it out to you. Or you can also look at the chat in the same Zoom thing. So the first question is from Sichi. It's for competitive NPS benchmarking. Should the base always be the same? That is, buyers must have bought on both your platform and the competition platform.
Yeah, I get your question. I would say yes. The only reason is that once a customer has been through, as I said, end-to-end, right from the awareness or consideration of a brand to actually being a brand customer to a loyalist or going through the way, if it is same for both the users, it's good because I've been through the complete cycle. And when it comes to comparing everything in my mind, then it's more like apple to apple comparison. So if I'm giving a score of 9 to my brand, which is the brand I'm working with, and I'm giving an XYZ to the competition, it shouldn't happen that it's only a part of experience they're exposed to. Hence, having the buyers is always good. I hope that makes sense.
Vicky, does that answer your question? Anything else you want to ask? Any additional thing you want to ask, or should we move to the next?
Yes, that's okay. Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanchita. So we have another question from Ern from Thailand. Is that on the case to increase money, how would the business attribute the retention to the investment in order to calculate the ROI, as the retention could come from organic or other factors?
Sure, sure. Thanks so much. Yep, I would say that one is, I mean, in that example, if you remember, we were looking at every year we have around 68, 70 retention rate. So we kind of, again, look at different metrics. It's not that we just feel that somebody might not, because one is keeping a continuous engagement with the customers. And when it comes to a SaaS company, or even it comes to a vendor, I expect that my sales team is in constant touch with them, and you get those feelers saying that somebody is going to attract or asking for discounts, or already talking about, I've got 2 other vendors, please give me a best quote. So when it comes to these kind of scenarios, it gets easier to understand that a particular customer is going to churn out. And out of that, I meant that, let's say there are 32% customers who are going to churn out. If I can retain 2, specifically targeting them, saying that these are the 2 low-hanging fruits, 2% of the customers, and I can do some changes for them. A customer who's asking me for a 50% discount on the 2nd or the 3rd year, I would be like, okay, you're going to only suck the bandwidth out. So it's okay. If you move on to competition, that's fine, but do not eat into our bandwidth. Yeah. So to answer you, I would rather look at who are these more profitable customers who might be moving to competition. I don't want them. So that's where I would actually look at retaining from those 2% out of a bigger pie of 32.
Thanks, Hrushi.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, or do you have anything more to ask?
Yeah, I think like it's clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have another question from Chris Ong. It's how do we evaluate the performance of creative design in CX? Understand
Yep.
there are tools, but what if we don't have those tools like heat mapping, etc.? What are the very primitive ways, but still measurable, where which we can use besides just CTR? So what are these tools? This thing. So yeah, that's one question, and then I will ask you the next question. But
Sure.
actually, he has, how can we evolve the way we evaluate performance for design objectively, as opposed to being subjective, like red color is better than blue? So this is basically what he's asking about, performance
Sure.
in a more objective way, using not very advanced tools, but more primitive tools. Is that there?
Absolutely. I think I'll try to place my answer for both together, both the questions. Yep, I understand your point of view is more than advanced tools like heat maps and those kind of things. In fact, I would say the best thing to do in design is, and I'm sure Sanchita can add if they're the experts in UI UX, but I personally feel the A/B testing is what works very well. So I might do A/B testing either by, let's say in time, saying that particular customers who come onto my portal or who are exposed to some advertisement, I look at the design or the creative aid. I look at what impact it has on sales, what impact it has on social media. I'm not even thinking of doing a consumer interview. I'm keeping it simple. And I see that there is a particular traction that happens. Now I roll out maybe at the same time for a similar TG, we call it a mapping of the personas or the TG, and I run the campaign B. And then at the end of the day, I say campaign A ran for 1 week with TG1, and the same TG1, I ran a campaign 2 on a different channel or a different kind of portal. And then I can see that what is the number of, let's say, interactions that went up on social media. They were talking about my creative being really engaging and nice, and the call to action is next time I go to the store, I'm going to buy it. Or the second or the more hardcore numbers would be that you tell your distribution team, your sales team to keep a track that just after running this campaign, and it might have a 2-day, 3-day lead-in time, is it that your sales are going up? Yeah, if it is going up because of campaign B then campaign A, then you have a real answer saying that both ran at the same time and sales are actually going up because of campaign B. We have done this, in fact, for a very, very non-involved category like engine oil, where the TG is mechanics, because the mechanic is the decision maker. And we had different creatives being sent to we actually went to the grassroots level of pin codes, and for 10 pin codes, we showed the creative. We put it on the store for mechanics saying this is creative 8. And we saw what kind of engine oils for 100cc, when this was for motorcycle bike segment. And we did a different campaigns for a different pin codes at the same time. And then we could understand, instead of not looking at customer scores or a likelihood to repurchase or a heat map, which creative did better. Yeah. So, and an engine oil is something that goes within the engine. You can only look at a Honda bike or maybe a BMW bike. You don't even really know what's the engine oil. So for a non-evolved category also, the A/B testing worked very well. I hope that answers you. So even if you don't want to do something complex, that should be the solution.
Thanks, Hrushi. Yeah, and we have a solution also which we have recently come out with in Lazada for measuring any kind of creatives design. But yes, that also involves heat mapping actually, and it is in numbers. So it's we call it UXAT because it measures the UX part of it also, the UI part of it, and yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
that's for another day. Maybe I'll share with you some
Yeah.
other day also. Yeah. So in somebody from Malaysia, I think I'm not able to get the exact name, mentions that about investment. Thank you for sharing. Pointers are clear. On the other hand, we maintain current operations and don't invest in, say, enhancement on channels, recruitment. How does one justify the case or project potential loss?
Sorry, if I get the second part of the question, you're saying if you don't make those investments, is it?
Yes. So if we maintain the current operations and don't invest any further, there's no enhancement on channels, there is no recruitment. How do you justify the case or project? What is the potential loss which will happen if you do not invest or just maintain the current operations?
Yeah. I'll take the first part of the question maybe first, saying that if I don't invest anything, I just maintain my status quo. Either of the two options will happen. One is your customers start dropping off to competition, or they become rejectors of the category itself. I don't want to consume this category itself. I don't need to. Then yes, there is a complete loss, and that can be easily done by, I mean, I would look at it more from the aspect that if there are 100 customers, keeping low numbers, leaving the system, and what was the average billing that we were doing with them. Some customers might be $20, some 50, some 75. I can easily say for this month, this is the loss because I'm not doing any enhancements, any focus areas on my CX. And then I can project it for next 2 years, 3 years. So that's the simplest way of doing it. But the other part where customers are not leaving you and you're not even doing any enhancements, the only way to understand that is what is the hook for them. It could be either that they have a dedicated relationship manager, and the relationship manager could be like a wealth manager, could be like an RM for a big, let's say, textiles manufacturer with the raw material. And that relationship is so strong, that bonding is so strong, or the person is giving such a good service levels that they don't want to leave the system. So that's how I would look at it, saying that there is some major hook for the customer to be bonded to you, or it could be a brand equity, right? There's a lot of advertisement that you are doing, maybe not from a CX perspective, but from a more acquisition perspective. And that has built such a good perception or brand image in my mind that I feel that this brand maybe has not gone out of the way to do something, but they are the best in the industry. I don't even want to try competition. So it could be a function of a lot of things. But yeah, I think it's a little risky. I mean, you'll have to wait and watch what is the numbers of customer churning out. If it is huge, then we'll have to restart the investments in the CX, but I wouldn't recommend waiting till that stage. Yeah. I hope I answer both the parts.
Yeah, thanks, Hrushi. Any other questions? If you want to put it in the chat, feel free, or just feel free to unmute and ask. We are already 7 minutes over. And Hrushi, just to let you know that beyond the people who are attending through the Zoom meeting, there are actually about 150 people who are watching the live streaming right now, and many of them will be actually listening to the recording later because they couldn't make it for this meeting immediately. It was quite short notice for them.
Yeah.
But yes, there are a lot of people who are watching. Harris, do you have anything in the live streaming? Any questions from there which I we can ask here? Um, I don't see any questions right now. Yeah, thanks.
No, but no questions from the live stream.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you so much. Thanks, Hrushi. Again,
Yeah.
thanks a lot. And this was really insightful, and I'm pretty sure a lot of learnings for everyone, which they can take back and implement wherever they are working, whether in Lazada or outside in any other company as well. And yeah, thanks again
Yep.
for
Thank you so much for
this.
inviting me. And I think they saw value in those 67 minutes that we had an interactive session.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks
you.
everyone for joining us. Hope you had a learning and insightful session today. And we actually do similar sessions. So if y'all want to register, then please feel free to just scan the QR code, which Harris is just sharing now, and then you will be able to get the updates on such sharing. And you can also pre-register because you don't need to wait till the time we are sending out an invite or we are sending out the notification, because most of the events are already created much beforehand. So you can always pre-register, so that at least you can make time for these sharings. It's usually every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Singapore time. Yeah, this is the QR code, so please feel free to scan it. Uh, Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll close the session today. Thanks.
Thanks, Sanjita.
Thank
Good
you,
session.
everyone.
Thank you.